I want to get your thoughts here. I want to get your thoughts. I want to start coaching thoughts. Okay, so put your coach hat on. So this came up over the weekend. Team played a game, 2 games. Should have mopped the floor with this team that they played. Ended up losing 1 game and winning the next game. And it was like the expectation is should have crushed this team. So this is like a super relatable situation for most teams because a lot of times you kind of know what the outcome of the game will probably be. It's either going to be we're going to get crushed, we're going to crush the team, or this will be a close game. It's one of those three, obviously. And if you feel like you know the outcome before you go into the game, a lot of times it can impact the game. So I want to take the example of going into a game where you know it's one of those situations where you're pretty confident about the outcome. If it's a close game, you're not sure, but if it's a game where you know you're going to win, the mindset going into that game, and then if it's a game where you're going and you know you're going to lose. Okay, so I have a secondary point on that as well, but I'll start with that. So like if you're the coach and you know that this is the situation your team's going into, what's your mindset, coaching style, message to the team in either of those situations?
Okay, which one though? What's the first
Let's
one?
start with you should win this game handily.
That's okay. So what you always want to remember is it doesn't matter. The truth is, it doesn't matter who you play, when you play them. There's a chance you can win. Like there's a chance the other team could have their best game, you could have your worst, whatever. It doesn't matter. And if the biggest example of that is the Miracle on Ice, right? That's just there's no way US should have won that game. They did though. So my thing was if you think you should win a game, you should, especially if you should blow someone out. The first thing is as a coach is like that's your preparation is always to obviously play the way you play, and you always have to play hard. And that's the hard part. When the hardest part, I think, a lot of the times is when you're playing a team that's less that where you think you should win. One of the toughest things is to have guys prepared, and then having guys prepared to play the same way you would if this was the best team. So a lot of times people look at it and it's like, oh, it's my time to get my cookies on the ice, right? To get my points and maybe get away from the structure that makes us a good team. So that's number one is you got to dance with the girl the guy that brought you to the dance, I think.
Yeah.
You got to dance with the band that brought you. So you got to. That's why structure is important. That's why not over structure, but you have to play a certain way, and you have to play that way all the time, good, bad, or ugly. So, like for me, when I look at the old USSR Soviets playing Team Canada, and when they won all those years, they were like stone faced. Like if you ever watched them play, it was like it looks like they didn't have emotion. They just played the same way all the time. If they were down 5, they played the same way. If they were up 5, they played the same way. Nothing ever changed. So I think that's when you're playing against a team that you should beat. You should have confidence. Confidence is always good, but you have to play the right way. And as soon as you just kind of get out of that, that's where things can fall apart.
So you said preparation, which is my first exact point. How about that? I have it written right here, preparation. So say more about preparation. So when you say you need to prepare the same regardless of who you're playing, whatever, like what does that mean? So if you're the best team for whatever age group, let's say you're a 2011 born team and you are the best team ever. I don't know which team's the best right now in Ontario, but let's say you're that team and you know you're just basically going to crush everybody unless you're playing the finals of a tournament or whatever. When you talk about preparation for that game or preparing the right way and whatever, what does the preparation piece actually mean? Like what should be the mental dialogue? What should be the mindset? And like, again, this is framing this as the coach. Like if you're coaching for your team, like what is the messaging for these guys?
Yeah, well, I think it comes down to, again, making sure that you like, I always call this mental, what do I call it?
Mental toughness 101?
Mental toughness 101.
Yeah,
Is that what I call it?
That is exactly
that's what I call it. Mental toughness 101. Nothing changes. Like the minute that you decide that a game is less important than another one, then that's the minute that you decide that we're not going to be the same. That you're unprepared. At the minute that you over prepare for something, then you're making it a bigger deal than it needs to be. So every game, every practice should be basically the same. In a practice, you should come to a practice if you're actually dialed in. You should have 1 or 2 things that you personally want to work on as a player, right? And so as a coach, maybe that's a reminder almost every time you go on the ice. Like, know your habits. work on those habits in practice without screwing up the drills. Do your part in the team, but like work on habits that you can make yourself better, and then in practice, work as hard as you can. Right. So you got your personal details, and then being the best team player in that practice. And no different than a game. If you look at, and no practice is less than another, right? You should be working on getting better somehow, right? Now, it's easy to say that. Most people don't do it, or they don't do it to a real serious intent. If that's a word. In a game, it's the same thing. You're not over preparing in any way. So you have a routine, right? The coach has a routine, however it is. So what is it? Maybe it's you get to the rink at a certain time, the warm ups at a certain time. You do your thing, and whether it's a championship game with 15,000 people or it's the first game of a tournament, let's say with nobody there, nothing should really be different, right? Because all the other stuff is just fluff. So if you went to the rink and it's the warm up at the same time, you do kind of what you do every single game, tape your stick, whatever it is, prepare, and then you focus on what you focus on. And if you do that, like nothing ever should change. And you never get too high, you never get too low, as you're just in the zone. I get to play a hockey game because nothing. That's what I always say to the kids when they start. Well, this is a big game. This is a big tournament. It's like it is. Like, and you can never not say it isn't. But the game itself, nothing doesn't change from one game to the other. The rink's the same size, same guys on the ice. You do the same thing, and if you make it, and you live in the moment, and you Led Zeppelin. You live in the moment, right? You live in the moment. You go shift to shift, and that's the way you should prepare for every game or whatever.